As you probably know by now, we like to stop at the halfway point in the year and take a look back at all the games. Now, we already broke down our favorite games of 2018 so far, so now we're going to look ahead at the games we're looking forward to the most for the remainder of 2018. We got a lot to cover, so let's get started off with number 20 and talk about Spyro, the Reignited Trilogy. This game, it feels like this game has been hyped up and talked about and rumored for so long, even though it's only really technically existed in 2018, and it looks to be pretty damn awesome. What this is a collection of the first 3 beloved games from the PS1 era, and this is basically rebuilt from the ground up with a completely nice, fresh new look, remastered soundtrack, and apparently little bits of new gameplay elements as well. But on the flip side, thankfully, it doesn't look like they're changing too much. And this looks pretty much right in line with Crash Bandicoot and the Insane Trilogy, which did turn out very, very well. Myself, as a big fan, was completely satisfied, so I have high hopes for Spyro in this Reignited Trilogy, because those games, the second one in particular, are incredible, and I can't wait to play them again. Next up at number 19, we have Code Vein. This game has been anticipated because it's from Bandai Namco, and it's been kind of pushed as like an anime-style Dark Souls game. Now, people flip out when you compare things to Dark Souls, but Code Vein, not just like from a challenge perspective, it literally takes gameplay and design elements from games like Dark Souls and puts it in an action-packed, kind of story-centric action-adventure game. It takes place in a post-apocalyptic dystopian setting with a bunch of supernatural elements, including vampires, which I'm always down for, and we don't know too much about it other than that we're getting our hands on it in September, and so far, the gameplay looks awesome. And next up at number 18, we have FIFA 19, which is another sports game that has kind of become a yearly staple at this point, so it's easy to be assumed, and you can pretty much expect most incremental improvements that sports games like FIFA do receive every year, including updated rosters, new additions to the movesets and ball handling tricks, as well as something that EA and FIFA have been touting as the new active touch system. This is apparently like a complete overhaul of actual player control with more timed finishing that gives players a bit more of a handle on exact timing on when the ball is kicked, and apparently it just adds a couple of little extra layers of depth and strategy, especially when you're facing off against another opponent. If you are a hardcore FIFA fan, you will probably know the difference, but if you're more of a casual player, maybe not so much. Still, you're gonna have things like the Champions League, Europa League, and Super Cup competitions in the game. And once again, to many people's excitement, but apparently this time it's gonna get a better shot, a Nintendo Switch version as well. You should expect to get FIFA 19 regardless of platform in your hands September 28th, 2018. Now, next at number 17, we have Super Mario Party for Nintendo Switch. This was somewhat of a surprise announcement for Switch owners, but it's one I think we definitely welcome. This is, of course, a party game based on the Mario Party games that started it all back in the Nintendo 64 days. And it's got that traditional Mario Party gameplay to it as well. There's a standard game mode, there's party mode where you can play with 4 players, and thankfully enough, the game can be played with only one Joy-Con controller, meaning you can pass another one around with a friend. For those uninitiated, Mario Party games take place on a board game and the players move around and compete on a board, occasionally playing random mini games to get a leg up on their opponent. And those mini games are always so much fun, and that's where these games really thrive. I'm very curious to see what those bring to the table. As of right now, we don't know for sure, but a Mario Party game on Nintendo Switch, I'm all in. We're looking forward to that on October 5th, 2018. Now, next at number 16, we have Overkill's The Walking Dead. Now, some of you out there may be sick of The Walking Dead in general, be it the show or the games, but this one seems pretty interesting, of course, because it's being developed by Overkill, the folks behind Payday. What we are getting here is an action-packed first-person shooter revolving around new Walking Dead characters, all based around playing with friends. And judging from what we've seen when we got our hands on it at E3 2018, it's shaping up to be pretty awesome. People were hoping that it would be something like a Left 4 Dead in the Walking Dead universe, and it has elements of it, but it's actually a lot deeper than you'd expect. It can be both fun and chaotic, and also stressful at the same time, and requires a lot of good coordination and teamwork with your friends or randos if that's how you're trying to play. Not only that, it does have moments of genuine scares and horror too, which is always a welcome thing. But still, we're gonna be the judge on that and see how scary it really is when it drops on November 6th. Next at number 15, we have Octopath Traveler. This is the big Square Enix RPG releasing on Nintendo Switch July 13th. I've been saying it from the beginning, I think the Nintendo Switch is a perfect place for JRPGs, and when they announced Octopath Traveler back in like a year or so ago as Project Octopath Traveler, I was so excited. This game, from the job system and the combat to the actually really interesting and compelling art style, just seems like a really perfect storm for a good handheld JRPG. There have been demos and stuff like that. Myself personally, I've been saving myself for the full game just because I am so excited. But I think the biggest question remains for me is the story gonna nail it? Am I going to fall in love with these characters or this world, or am I gonna be hooked by the general story? That remains to be seen, but thankfully at the time of posting this video, we don't have to wait too much longer. Coming down to number 14, we have Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu/Eevee. Now, this is a Pokemon game that seems to be pretty divisive in the community. It seems like something that's more geared towards casual fans, capitalizing on the success of Pokemon Go. What this is essentially somewhat of a remake of the original Pokemon Red and Blue, but instead of actually battling Pokemon out in the wild, all you do is essentially catch them by throwing a Pokeball at them in first-person perspective, similar to Pokemon Go. Those Pokemon that you catch and you take along on your adventure can also be coordinated with the game on your phone, the app of Pokemon Go. That seems to be the big thing. The fact that you can't battle Pokemon out in the wild seems to be jamming some folks up. You can battle other trainers, but people are really wondering how much RPG elements this game will actually have. It doesn't seem like much, but everyone else is holding on to hope about the other game that the Pokemon Company is planning to announce, a more hardcore, traditional Pokemon RPG game that's apparently going to be releasing hopefully in 2019. That being said, Pokemon Let's Go to me still seems like a nice experience. I want Pokemon something on the Nintendo Switch, and this seems like a good first step. I will be playing it just as a Pokemon fan that just enjoys Pokemon stuff, and I'll still be keeping my fingers crossed for that more RPG intensive game releasing later on. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu Eevee is dropping on November 16th, 2018. Now, next up at number 13, we have Hitman 2. This isn't the actual Hitman 2, it's the sequel to the new kind of relaunched Hitman game. This time being published by Warner Brothers, the game is not being released episodically. When you get it, you have a full game with all the maps and all the things to do, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that translates over. Because as much as I was skeptical as a longtime Hitman fan, I was pretty happy with the whole episodic release thing because they kept putting out so much new fun things and new reasons to really keep you playing. Hitman 2, of course, has been announced that they will have that support, like new contracts coming out all the time and new elusive targets, but I'm just curious to see how that works when it's a disc that I have all the maps for. Will I get sick of it as quickly? I don't know. We did get to play this at E3 2018, and it's very much more of the same, and that is absolutely not a bad thing. It seems like they're trying to spice up new ways to kill people with weird and unconventional weapons, and for a Hitman game, I think that is totally welcome and perfect. We'll find out for sure how it really is, though, on November 13th, 2018. At number 12, we have Call of Duty Black Ops 4. This is an interesting turning point for Call of Duty because Call of Duty World War II was fine. Now it seems like they're trying to take the Black Ops thing to a completely new level. Black Ops, of course, being one of the best selling games in the series, that name itself can just sell so many things, and it seems like now they're focusing on complete multiplayer. As you probably know, Call of Duty Black Ops 4 will not launch with a single player campaign at all. It's going to focus more on multiplayer, both on the actual competitive side and the Call of Duty Zombies mode. Both of those are apparently going to have way more features, way more options. And hey, if that's the stuff that you go to Call of Duty for, good for you. Some of us out there, though, really like the fun, harmless little single-player adventures, and it's a shame that it won't have that anymore. The biggest question for me is, will Black Ops 4 do enough to really shake up the actual Call of Duty formula, make it feel fresh like we've been wanting to for so many years? They come close, they keep trying, but for myself and many others, it just hasn't quite nailed that feel yet. It's also gonna have a Battle Royale mode down the line that I am interested in checking out. I wanna see their take on it, but we're just gonna have to wait until October 12th, 2018 to see what the deal is. Next up at number 11, we have Soul Calibur 6. This is one of the best fighting games. I don't know about Soul Calibur 6, I'm just saying Soul Calibur in general is definitely one of my favorite fighting games of all time. It's a little underrated in some circles. There's a lot of those other big guys that people like to pay attention to, but Soul Calibur's kind of weapon and parry-based combat, I think, is some of the best. Not only that, and it's like stupid for me to really hype up the game for this reason, but I can't help it. Geralt is going to be a playable character. He's gonna have all his moves, he looks cool, he's there in all of his glory, and I can't wait to play as him, I'm not gonna lie. A lot of the other new characters they're introducing seem cool, but most importantly, it seems like the classic characters are still getting justice done. They've been working on this game for a while, and we're really looking forward to it this October. Next up at number 10, we're gonna cross off the other big first-person shooter multiplayer game on our list, That's Battlefield 5. Oof, boy, this has been a controversial one. I don't really care. I hope the game is good. So far from what we've seen, it does look like more Battlefield, this time taking place in World War II, but taking a lot of the elements that made Battlefield 1 special while adding a bit more mobility in terms of traversal, how you climb over ledges, how you jump out windows, and how you go prone. I don't know if these elements are going to be enough to change it up. Apparently there is more emphasis on character customization and vehicle customization and just building up your wacky, crazy World War II characters however you want. I'm happy to see all that, and I'm also happy to see the return of the single-player story vignettes, the small little playable stories that take place in different parts of the war that are just fun little single-player adventures to play through. I'm happy they're keeping those because I thought that was some of the best shit. And honestly, we have so many World War II games, and Call of Duty World War II didn't do it for me. Here's hoping that Battlefield 5's more wacky take on World War II changes things up a little bit. Now, next at number 9, we have Just Cause 4. Rico Rodriguez seems to return in a new place that is absolutely huge, and this time the bad guys are messing with the weather. Just Cause 4 is going to have a bunch of different dynamic weather systems that actually affect the environment. Most notably, as featured in the trailer, a big giant tornado that will completely tear through areas. I'm curious to see how much these different forces of destruction actually tie into the gameplay, because by the time Just Cause 3 wrapped up, I feel like I had seen pretty much everything a Just Cause series has had to offer. They are absolutely fun, but I think they really need to start shaking it up. Here's hoping Just Cause 4 does that. I don't know. We're gonna have to wait and see. If it doesn't get delayed, it's gonna round out the end of what seems to be a pretty nice year, releasing December 4th, 2018. Next up at number 8, we have Forza Horizon 4. This is what I'm really looking forward to. As a fan of racing games who isn't like a car nut or anything, but just loves the act of racing, the Forza Horizon games have had it nailed down perfectly. The perfect mix between arcadey style racing and more realistic simulation style racing. Of course, you have all the options to tweak how it plays at your disposal once again, but what Forza Horizon 4 brings to the table is the new English countryside setting, which seems pretty unique, and new expanded weather systems that revolve completely around seasons that will affect the driving. I got my hands on this at E3 2018, and I got to experience spring, summer, winter, and fall, and all of them managed to feel and look completely different and encourage, thankfully, different styles of play and different use of vehicles. It also looks completely gorgeous, and as a fan of these games, I don't expect much more. I just expect good stuff, new car roster updates, and more things to play through. I really think the Horizon games actually nail it way better than the main Forza games, but that's just me. This one's out October 2nd. Down to number 7, we have Shadow of the Tomb Raider. This is dropping September 14th, and it's been hailed as Lara's final step to becoming the Tomb Raider we all know and love. Now, I feel like they said that in the last game. Every game has been a build-up to her becoming the actual full Tomb Raider character. This whole thing has served as an origin story, and they've been talking up how Shadow of the Tomb Raider finally closes that book. My big question is, will that closing of that book feel satisfying, and what comes next? What I am excited to see from Shadow of the Tomb Raider, especially getting my hands on with an early version of the game, is its emphasis on a more badass Lara. Now you can cover yourself in mud, hide in ivy, and take out dudes with a big Rambo-style combat knife. She wears a combat vest now, she has more rappel abilities, and story-wise, it seems like she's out for more blood this time around, and the world around her is kind of reacting to her actions in ways I won't spoil. Essentially, the gameplay is like more of these new current generation Tomb Raider games, but in a more exciting setting with new abilities. Personally, I'm down with more of that style of gameplay, so I'm looking forward to this one. Because next at number 6, we have Mega Man 11 releasing for all the major consoles on October 2nd. This seems to be a return to form to the Mega Man style gameplay that fans have known and loved for many, many, many years. And what we're talking here is like down to Mega Man 2 gameplay. Like, this is exactly what you would expect. You're fighting enemies, you're taking on their suits, and you're getting their abilities, and the game is just incredibly challenging. When we got to play this at E3, we found ourselves wanting to smash the controller in frustration, because the game seems that committed to that hardcore, old-style platforming and quick shooting that is the complete reason why fans love the series. And it also looks really great. Thankfully, the new art style and the 2.5D graphics don't interfere or slow down the gameplay at all. While this new Mega Man looks really cool and shiny, thankfully it seems like it's also still a blast to play. Coming down to number 5, we have Assassin's Creed Odyssey. This time, it's taking place in ancient Greece in the same style of game that was Assassin's Creed Origins. I thought that was a pretty nice shift for the series, and now they seem to be taking it even further with a more combat-focused game in ancient Greece. You're like this whole warrior guy. You're not even really an assassin. They have confirmed that Templars are not in the game, and the focus here is really on becoming an ancient Greek war hero rather than an assassin. You choose between a male or a female character and go on this adventure that has a ton more RPG elements. Apparently Ubisoft has really fleshed out all the RPG mechanics that worked so well in Origins and gave you a lot more here. More character skill trees to go through, more things to work towards. Also lots more of those side quests that are actually interesting and not just cookie cutter filler, and dialogue moments where you can choose what to say. That's a first for the series, and I'm very curious to see how they handle it. Some games seem to put it in just to have it. Others like to take it a step further and really change how your conversations affect the game. Regardless, it looks fun, it looks very pretty, and it looks like more Assassin's Creed Origins, except now you're like a descendant of Leonidas of Sparta. And that sounds cool to me. Honestly, I'm into that, but we'll see for ourselves October 5th. Next at number 4, we have Fallout 76. This is dropping for all the major consoles November 14th, and it's another game that has fans pretty divided. Some folks will take more Fallout however they can get it. Other people are a little bit more skeptical of the always online, complete shared world thing they have going on here. Regardless, it takes place in an open world West Virginia that is drastically larger than Fallout 4 according to the creators. And it's going to be a world that reacts to you, and you're also going to have to build your own camps inside of that world, and you're tasked with defending them either by yourself or with friends. After this was officially revealed at E3, we still have a lot of questions that need answering, just in terms of how the multiplayer works, how much you can really play by yourself. Even though they said you could, it seems like a world very much focused around player interaction. That being said though, just the world they seem to be designing and the new types of creatures and enemies and the new building and defense systems seem fun enough. So here at gameranx, we still just can't help but look forward to it. Regardless of our questions, we just like Fallout stuff, so we're hoping this is awesome. Now at number 3, we have Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. This is releasing December 7th, 2018 for the Nintendo Switch, and it's basically the long-awaited Super Smash Bros. Game that we've wanted on Nintendo Switch. Super Smash Bros. On the Wii U was awesome, but not everybody had a Wii U. Here, it seems like this time around, the game's gonna get a better shot. And thankfully, it's not just a complete port. Judging from what we've seen and how it plays, this is a new Super Smash Bros. Game with a little bit of a new feel to it and new combat and design tweaks, and most importantly, every character that's ever been playable in a Super Smash Bros. Game before is featured in this game. That is a huge roster and really freaking ambitious in terms of balancing and stuff like that. And if anyone can do it, I think it would be Sakurai and the team behind these games. Hopefully it's a freaking blast, because Super Smash Bros. On the Nintendo Switch just sounds like a match made in heaven. Coming down to number 2, we have Insomniac's SpiderMan, dropping September 7th on PlayStation 4. This has been one of our most anticipated games for a while because it just looks like a damn good Spider-Man game. Not only that, Insomniac, the folks behind stuff like Ratchet & Clank and Sunset Overdrive, have an incredible pedigree when it comes to building great games. And Spider-Man has needed a good game treatment for a while now. As a huge fan, I play every single Spider-Man game, even if they're terrible. And from what we've seen at E3 2018, this seems to be the tops, dude. It's got a big open world city. The swinging in this game actually feels physics-based, and webs actually have to attach to buildings. But more importantly, it seems like the presentation, the story, and the combat is top-notch. It's an experienced Spider-Man. He's facing off against a bunch of villains, and I'm really putting a lot of faith in this game in terms of building up a new Marvel game universe similar to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This game just has to really take off and be awesome and really kind of capitalize on its promises. I hope it does, because we need more superhero games. Those need to make a comeback. But at number 1, say it with us now, you can probably see this one coming a mile away, it's Red Dead Redemption 2. This is dropping on PS4 and Xbox One on October 26th, 2018, and it's the long-awaited follow-up to Red Dead Redemption, a game that I just recently replayed, and it's awesome. It's really fantastic. So I hope Red Dead Redemption 2 can follow along in its footsteps. This game actually takes place before the events of Red Dead Redemption. This one focuses around the inner workings of Dutch's gang back when it was a full-fledged thing, and it takes place in a Wild West that's a bit more open to outlaws. In the original Red Dead Redemption, we saw a Wild West that had kind of left behind the old ways, but here we're gonna get a world where that decline is only just starting. and I'm very curious to see how that goes down, especially in terms of Rockstar Games' storytelling caliber. I'm hoping we have something really good here. Rockstar, of course, is notorious for not saying much, so we still have plenty of questions in terms of like how the multiplayer goes down, what the combat's actually like, and how big this world really is. We've got our fingers crossed for hopefully an eventual PC release, but regardless, it's a new Red Dead game and we can't help but be really excited about it. It's an amazing developer and it's a good franchise, so that's why it's #1 on our list. Of course, there are so many games releasing in the second half of 2018, we can't fit them all. These are our personal favorites, but we got some bonus ones for you, including Yakuza Kiwami 2, Telltale's The Walking Dead: The Final Season, Overcooked 2, and Dragon Quest XI: Echoes of an Elusive Age. These are all the games that we are so excited to get our hands on in 2018. Fingers crossed none of them get delayed, but you never know. But regardless, if you got your own top 10 or your own top 20 in the comments, let us know. We want to hear from you guys. We want to know what games you're looking forward to the most so we can kind of gauge what videos we make. But if you enjoyed this video and maybe learned a thing or two, clicking the like button does help us out. We really do appreciate it. And if you are new, you should consider subscribing because we put out stuff like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.